This is Andi Purewal for ID Boxing. I'm joined by promoter Ben Shalom here in London. Ben, firstly, how are you?
I'm well. Glad to be here. Glad to be back. Bit of deja vu, but it's bigger this time, so I'm happy.
I was going to say, heading into this event with all of the fight week media events, was you determined not to stage in similar places and similar events just to avoid the sake of being superstitious?
You know what? Last time it was a massive fight. We were on a boat and it was incredible. And press conference was like a lot of people said to me, it was the best press conference they've seen for a long time. And it's hard to top, to be honest. But you know, the fight is already sold. It was sold that first time. It's a massive, massive fight. It's a massive event. And we get to do it again. And to be honest, it's easier this time. People know the personalities. People know the stories. There's more intrigue now, perhaps because of the length of time and the back and forth and the fact that Clarissa's had to go to the US and then come back. And 4 weeks on, it feels big. And avoiding the same venues, and maybe it'll be a bit different tomorrow as well.
Does it feel bigger with the extra month in between?
Look, I'll be honest, it felt massive in the first week because I think people were like, wow, the attention in the press conference, the open workout, everything was big. But here we are, we're about to start fight week, press conference is tomorrow. It is, I mean, it's bigger in the sense there's more broadcast partners now, there's more tickets sold, there's more this, there's more that, probably because of the time. And I think by the end of this week, this is going to be a monster. And it's so exciting for Savannah and obviously Clarissa, because I don't think they've ever experienced a level of attention like this, and the whole card as well. Like, it's a special moment for the sport, not just women's boxing, but for the whole sport, to have an event like this, attracting attention like this, and I can't wait.
Ben, just take me back to when the fight was initially postponed. We never had a chance to catch up in the immediate aftermath of that. How difficult of a decision was that, and who ultimately had the final say in delaying the card? Because obviously it was a big talking point over social media.
Yeah, it was the board. It was difficult, honestly. Imagine 24, 48 hours out of your biggest show possibly that you've ever done. And you've got the fighters just about making weight. You've got the fans on the way down, travelling from all over the country, and everything happened. Ultimately, I respect what happened. It was a difficult moment for everyone. It's a difficult moment for the country. But the board made their decision, and what can we do? You know, we did the best we could for it. We respected it. And to be honest, the fighters have behaved so well. So many fighters could have thrown a strop, could have said no. The fact that they had to cut weight and then have a week off and then come again, it's a massive moment for them. It's a massive moment for their careers, and I'm just thankful that they all stayed on track. They all understood what was going on, and they're the ones that made this event happen again, and they're the ones that made it less stressful than it could have been, because it could have been an absolute nightmare. You know, all it took was one of the fighters to pull out, and we were done.
How difficult was that news to deliver to the card itself, Ben? Because, as you said, a lot of those fighters, but it was all making weight, basically. It was on the Friday, the show got pulled. Everybody's there making weight. How difficult was that news to deliver to them?
It was difficult. It was difficult to hear. It was difficult to take in. It was difficult to communicate. It was horrible because the fans were so disappointed. A lot of people pissed off. But ultimately, if you do the right thing, and we always tried to do the right thing throughout the process. We listened to who we had to listen to. We spoke with the governing body, and our hands were tied. And I think the fighters understood that. It was unfortunate. It's a once in a lifetime thing. I still probably think it was probably the right decision for the board to do that, given this is a monster of a celebration. It's a massive celebration for the sport, and I don't think it would have been the same. And so to be here now, I think now we are justified in being here, and the board are justified in making that decision, because we're here now and we don't have anything hanging over the event, and the fighters are back and they're ready to go, and they're grateful that they get to have the event that they always dreamt of, which was a celebration, the entertainment on Saturday night, the things that are planned. The ESPN have got 95 people here. That's how big this show is around the world, and I think they're grateful that they've got this opportunity again.
Shields Marshall, headline event, as we've touched on. Who's going to have benefited more from this extra month, in your opinion, Ben?
Look, the obvious thing to say is Savannah. Clarissa's had to go back to the US, have a bit of a camp there, then come back, I think, last Friday. That's got to take its toll. But then, when she arrives, the whole team are saying, have you seen Clarissa? She looks better than last time. She looks leaner than last time. She looks more confident than last time. I think she knows what she's dealing with now. She came to the UK last time. She experienced a fight week here. So although on the face of it, you'd say Savannah should be benefiting more, and she feels that way 100%. Her and Peter. Clarissa's ready, and she's a professional, and she's done this before, and she is ready to go, and that's what makes it so exciting.
Is this fight, Ben, as simple as Savannah's looked at the heavier-handed of the two, and Clarissa's seen as maybe the better boxer of the two? Is it as simple as looking at it like that?
Not at all. Savannah's an incredible boxer. We don't see that style much in women's boxing. Incredible boxer, yes, massive puncher. Clarissa can punch. Her volume punching is incredible. She's busy. I think they're contrasting styles, but I think they're both very gifted boxers, and it's just a crazy fight. It's one of those where, as a fan, I'm excited for. Like, I wanted to see this fight. I've been wanting to see this fight for years. I don't need to sell it. The story's there, everything's there, the personalities. It's a huge fight. It's got everything. This will be the best advert for women's boxing that there's been on a women's card, and with a chief support that's incredible as well, before we even start on that fight. So yeah, it's got everything, and no, it's not just boxer v puncher. This is a serious fight between the two best females in the middleweight division.
Maya Baumgardner being the chief support, as you mentioned, a fight which has got everybody talking as much as the headline event. What are you hoping to see in that one, Ben?
I think that is another intriguing fight. I think we know what Maya does. We know how she boxes. We know Baumgardner is explosive, and we've probably seen a bit of a chink in Baumgardner's armour. A lot of people saying she can only box one way, and so that she's powerful, and that she might struggle with Maya and the experience and boxing, at range. So we'll see. But look, again, you've seen them both come in. They're so confident. They're at each other. They're incredible personalities, and they both know what's on the line. So both of those top two fights, everyone's called in different ways. It's going to be a ridiculous night on Saturday night. I think everyone should take a moment to realise this isn't just boxer. This isn't just Sky Sports. How the hell has the sport got to the point where we're able to even do this? And these fights are this anticipated. And dream come true for them. Massive moment for the sport. And I'm hoping that a lot of people will see this as boxing's not that bad after all.
So just looking at the undercard, the likes of Carrie Sartingstall, Lauren Price, Caroline Dubois, Shannon Ryan, the list goes on. There's kind of young females making their way through now the pro ranks. One criticism from previous, not just on the female side but from the male side, is maybe the matching of fighters because of their past amateur experiences. How confident are you that on Saturday night they will have more questions to answer in comparison to maybe previously?
Look, Lauren's fought once. Carris has fought once. Caroline's had a few now. She's stepping up. Look, it's difficult because a lot of them, you do feel they could challenge for world titles now. When you've boxed that, Lauren Price is probably the most decorated fighter we've ever had in this country. She's won gold at everything. She's done everything that you can do in the amateur sport, and she's turned over, so she's going to be a step ahead, but she's in a second fight. Caroline Dubois is 21 years old. Carrie Sartingstall's in a second fight as well. They're going to be steps up. They're going to be moved extremely, extremely quickly, but at the same time, they're not just getting used to their opponents, they're getting used to the stage. They're getting used to boxing in front of thousands, tens of thousands of people, like on Saturday night. They're getting used to boxing in front of 100 countries. They're going to be good fights. Caroline is in a step up. It's, as I say, the chief support. You couldn't get more competitive than that. And it's an amazing time for women's sport. When Clarissa and Savannah turned over, they could have never dreamt of this. And now Lauren and Caroline and Carris, who are turning over now, and Shannon, as you say, and Ebony and Georgia, can actually see what can be achieved. That's a special moment for the sport. That's incredible. That is like, women's boxing is a serious career now. These women are earning serious money on Saturday night, and they should be, and because of the level of interest in the event.
Ben, of course, away from his card, one big talking point over the past week or so in the boxing world has been that involving Conor Benn. Now, this past weekend we were due to see a big fight between him and Chris Eubank Jr., which did not go ahead due to an adverse finding in one of Conor Benn's VADA tests. Just wanted to get your initial reaction. When you heard that news last week, what went through your mind?
When I heard it, I just thought it would be called off. I didn't expect all that to happen. It wasn't a good week for the sport. I don't want to comment too much because all it's going to be levelled at me is that you're a rival promoter, and of course you're going to say that. But to be honest, it was just a bad week for the sport in general, never mind whoever. It's not something to gloat about because, we all will now have problems with sponsors and broadcasters and this sport is an amazing sport, but there's clearly problems within it. That's why we got in the sport. Every business, we're not just coming in here to be to be the same as everyone else. We see there's problems in the sport. There's more than I can even talk about. Why do you think sometimes I say I'm not talking about X, Y, Z, or I've said it on one occasion? Because I don't want legal letters. I don't want problems. I want to improve the sport. All I asked from last week is people take responsibility and that we look at a way forward and we actually look for the interests and the long term of the sport. And that's all I want. I don't want to stick the knife in. I want people to realise there are problems in the sport. How can we fix them? There's enough good people in the sport and there's enough fighters that care to try and make a change. And if we can be part of that, then great. But again, I'm not looking to try and take advantage of the situation. It was just a dreadful week for boxing, but we have an amazing week for boxing this week, and I'm hoping that can show boxing in the best possible light and bring us out of what happened last week.
Ben, I understand that you might feel like you don't want to talk too much, but as a promoter who's working with arguably the largest broadcaster within the UK, people are going to want to know your thoughts and opinions on what unfolded last week. What was your take, firstly though, Ben, on finding out that the test was done around September 1st, 23rd, they got the results back, and then the fight wasn't pulled, or at least was being discussed about being pulled, when the Daily Mail released the article. Now, from your time working in boxing, do you believe that fight would have gone ahead if it wasn't for the Daily Mail's article which broke the news?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I think the board said that they cancelled it before that Daily Mail article came out. Maybe it was because they knew that maybe people had found out and so that's why it got cancelled. I don't know. What I can say is it was handled badly. It was handled badly by everyone. But I want to look back on that week and say, thank God that happened, because there's things that I see in this sport that aren't right, and I'm not pointing the finger. And I'm always told, you know what, son, you don't know how it works. You're a young kid, you're wet behind the ears. No, you don't know what this. People think that we have connections in the sport or this or that or whatever. We're just fans that have worked our way up, and we see things that we think should be changed, but we have to be careful. And yeah, it wasn't a good week. It was terrible, and I hope that people will look at it, take responsibility. Why can't we just take responsibility? When we make a mistake, and I'm sure we're going to make many, and we're not perfect, then we'll hopefully confront it, take responsibility, and find ways for the sport to improve and change. And that's all you can hope from a week like that, is that it kick-starts change, because this sport can be massive. It can be an amazing sport. It can change people's lives. Let's make sure it's done in the right way, and that's all I can say on it. It wasn't a good week, and I just want it to be used in the most positive way it can be.
It wasn't a good week. What type of image do you think that has left on the sport, Ben?
Not a good one. Not a good one. Because how many times does boxing actually break into the mainstream? Not many, and that did, and for all the wrong reasons. But again, we weren't involved. We don't know all the details. It didn't look good. I hope that it changes the sport. I hope we can help change the sport. There's a lot, whether it's doping, whether it's regulation, whether it's judging, whether it's governing bodies, whether it's all sorts. That's why we're involved in the sport. We wouldn't have started a business if we didn't think the sport could be improved and there was ways to do it. And we hope to be a part of that. But that was not a good image, and no one wants that. But this week, and I'm not just saying this week is special, and this isn't to do with boxer. A lot of people invested winning in boxing over the past 10 years. So to be here and to do this and to have this going on and to have this in front of such a big audience, I'm hoping it will help go some way to refreshing people's minds about what an amazing sport this is and how good it can be, and hopefully things changed after what happened last week.
Something else which I want to get your thoughts on is a video that started circulating of a Dr. Usman Sajjad suggesting that there's a certain way to get around testing procedures within the UK. I'm sure you've seen the video, you know what I'm referring to, so what's your thoughts on that?
Again, I don't know him, I don't know where that's come from. It's disgraceful. It's disgraceful. But he's not a licensed member. I feel sorry sometimes. You know, a lot of boxers are young people and they can be impressionable people. I'm not making excuses for anyone, but that stuff cannot exist. We're a sport. Like, what's going on? Any other sport would be stamping it out. Let's regularly test people. Let's make sure it's more rigorous. Let's make sure that we do recognise all testing, and that's all I can say. and any loopholes and anything, if people know about that, it needs to be reported. But again, I don't want to get bogged down in it. It needs to change. We'll work hard behind the scenes to make sure it does. Everyone can see what it was last week. Everyone can see how it was handled. Let's make sure it never, ever, ever happens again.
Ben, final thing on it all then before we do move on. In your opinion, what would be the appropriate action to take place now? Obviously, it's a developing story. We're hearing more and more about it as the week goes on. Last night there were reports of a previous VADA test which kind of had failed earlier in the year. So yeah, just kind of your thoughts on what would be the appropriate course of action now?
Get all the evidence and make a decision appropriately and stop. Let's stop trying to hide things from people. Let's stop trying to block things from happening. We want a clean sport. We all want a clean sport. Let's operate properly. Let's see what's happened. Let's make a decision then. And hopefully now they have the time to get to the bottom of it. Why it took so long. What's gone on with different samples. Are there other tests? Let's just get to the bottom with it and act within the rules and move on. And the person I feel most sorry for is Chris Eubank Jr., who I went to see afterwards, and the undercard and everything, but Chris as well, because he did everything and obviously was involved in his past 2 fights, and that was who my heart went out to, and I spoke to him after, and he was devastated because he did everything.
Just on the junior front, obviously, as you mentioned, he's worked with Sky, worked with you guys on that show, on the most recent fights. What's going to be the plan for him? Are you going to be having discussions to try and get back at Liam Smith's again, calling for that fight? Is it more reasonable that we could see that towards the back end of this year now?
Again, it will be up to Usman and Chris. What do they want? We think that's the most obvious fight. We think that's a great fight. We thought that was the fight that he was going to take rather than Conor Benn. But it is what it is. What happened. But now he's got options and he's got opportunities, and he should take the best fights possible. I know Chris wants the biggest fights. I know what he's like. And again, I think he's a star, and I think he's come out of this really well. So I'm happy. I think actually, if one person's come out of this well, it's Chris. And I'm hoping he'll get big opportunities. And we think Liam Smith's a perfect fight. And I know Liam wants that fight more than anything.
Moving away from that whole topic, Ben, just a couple of other things I want to touch on. We haven't had a chance to catch up since the news broke about Hughie Fury having long COVID. Of course, I hope he's getting better now. But what's going to be plans with Michael Hunter?
Michael is WBA #1. We're hoping they'll be ordered to face Daniel Dubois, mandatory. They might order another final eliminator instead, but maybe now he's been waiting that long through no fault of his own. We hope that he gets his opportunity. Michael deserves an opportunity. He's the most avoided fighter in the division, and it's a great division now. And Michael's in that position. Hughie has got a bad illness, and he needs to take some time out of the ring, and we want to be respectful of that. And Michael now can hopefully challenge Daniel Dubois for the interim title very soon.
Dillian Whyte, obviously he's a free agent. There's been some talk, some reports that he might go back with Matchroom, but I'm sure you've had some conversations with him still. What's the latest on your end?
I think he wants to do one fight at a time, and it just depends who can give him the opportunity that he wants. We've got a lot of shows to announce for the rest of the year that we're focused on. And look, I'd love to work with Dillian one day, whether it's his next fight or his whatever. Good to see him back in the division. But I want to see big fights happen. I want to see him in the big fights again. I want to see him, back out there. I don't think he knows that wasn't his best performance, and let's see what he decides to do. But yeah, I think he'll do one fight at a time, and it's whatever opportunity he makes best. But I think he will. Yeah, I think his next fight will be with Matchroom, but let's see.
And final one, Tyson Fury and Derek Chisora seems to be in the works for a trilogy bout. Not the one which everybody wanted, but we might well get that next. Just get your thoughts on that news, though, if that one does go ahead. I
wish we'd seen Tyson, AJ. I did say I wasn't too sure it would definitely happen, but yeah, it is what it is. Watching Tyson Fury is great for the sport. He's a massive personality. He's an unbelievable boxer, and Derek's a big personality. I'm sure a lot of people will still watch it. But let's see. Let's wait, because we've got some big fights to come. We can't always get what we want. I'm hoping boxing will keep moving, and we should just see the fights happen. And we've seen now with White and with Parker and whatever fighters can come again. It would have been nice to see AJ against Tyson, but it is what it is, and I'm sure he'll fight Usyk next. And yeah, it's an exciting time for the heavyweight division.
Right, Ben, I appreciate your time. I know you've got a couple more interviews to do, so thank you for speaking to me and ID Boxing.
Cheers, bro.